Hi there, guys. I am Leo Rothmann, and you might be wondering who am I beyond just my name? Well, I'm a training enthusiast. Um, I also love philosophy, apart from other things, and I like to kind of filter my philosophy through the prism of physical exertion, uh, which is, I think, not that unique. I think many of us try and find a way to make sense of why we're here, what our goal is for our lives. Um, and we try to make sense of the suffering that we go through on a daily basis. It just so happens that I like to kind of funnel mine through the gateway of physical exertion because I find it very rewarding, and I feel like it peels back the layers of who I am so that I may peer deeper into who it is that lies at the very core of who you see in front of you. Um, So, yeah, what have I participated in? What gives me, I guess you could say, license to really be speaking to you right now? Well, I've got a variety of experience, ranging from one extreme to the next. Obviously, there are integral similarities between everything that I've done, and there is some kind of there is a rhyme and a reason to it. Um, I'm currently a professional boxer. I also handle the strength and conditioning for a multitude of other professional boxers. Um, I'm also a personal trainer and a wellness and holistic lifestyle coach. It's a very fancy way of saying that I overhaul people's lifestyles and kind of just help them fine tune what it is that they do on a daily basis so that they may become a better version of themselves day to day. Um, I also represent VikingLionTraining.com. So, that's kind of the website that I work through. Um, we facilitate a whole bunch of programs on there, everything from correspondence programs to in-person programs. And those programs obviously encompass everything from nutrition to training, as well as obviously lifestyle hygiene factors, things like what to do before bed, I mean, the usual kind of so-called lifestyle hacking or body hacking protocols. Um, Apart from that, obviously, I've participated in amateur wrestling, amateur powerlifting. I have not participated in bodybuilding shows. However, I would consider myself a bodybuilding enthusiast and a bodybuilding style training enthusiast, just because I feel like many things are inadvertently bodybuilding based, just because of the fact that I think many people don't realize where most of our modalities originate from, way back in the day. I mean, we're looking to the time of Vince Gironda. I mean, even to the time of guys like George Hackenschmidt, and even such influential figures as Eugene Sandow, um, who basically were trendsetters and trailblazers and gave us much of the knowledge that we have today. So you could look at the bodybuilding scene from the everything. I mean, as far back as the 30s, 40s, 50s, as being the kind of crazy mad scientists who many exercise scientists would build their theories on the back of. There are individuals like Mike Mensa and Arthur Jones and Casey Vieta who, amongst others, have set the standard for many of our training theories to this day. Makes me think of Deontay Wilder to this day. But but the interesting thing is that we're finding out more and more now through our wonderful exercise scientists like Dr. Ed Helms and Dr. Lane Norton and some other fantastic ones who I can't name right now just because I can't think of them off the top of my head. That they've come to the fore, showing that many of the principles that we have from yesteryear are actually predominantly correct. And without those types of individuals, we wouldn't be where we are now. So we really need to thank the bodybuilders, of the past, um, for dreaming up the theory that we currently use. Um, So a lot of people would like to think that when they're going into a gym, they're not necessarily doing bodybuilding. However, the funny thing is that pretty much most of the machines that you're using were at some point first tested and conceived by a bodybuilder, even though the application of the machine or exercise is now different, has kind of been repurposed, So credit where credit is due, and that would be, I think, the best example of why I love bodybuilding, because I feel like without bodybuilders of the past, we would not know what we know now. And we wouldn't be able to repurpose much of what it is that we do, whether it be training for bodybuilding or just toning, whether you're someone who just trains 3 times a week and wants to stay healthy. If there was not someone during the 30s, 40s, and 50s who were thinking about implementing a new type of training, specifically facilitating towards hypertrophy or muscle gain, I don't think we would currently have it. So who are my heroes? Who are my influences? What is it that I use as an inspiration on a daily basis, specifically in regards to my training, or with regards to my training and philosophical process? I would say first would be Mike Mensa. I mentioned Mike earlier, and that is because I feel like Mike was a powerhouse of information and knowledge, as well as being a heavy logician. He was sounds almost like a crazy magician who utilizes logic. He was kind of crazy, and at the time, I guess he would have seemed a bit like a magician. But at the very core of it, I think he understood things that were well beyond where he was at the time, utilizing I was about to say logistical, a logical approach. um, and without his incredible mind, I don't think people would have been able to build upon those foundations. Guys like Dorian Yates, who also is a big hero of mine. Sorry, I'm bumping the mic. Dorian Yates is a big hero of mine as well. Without Mike Mensa, we would not have had Dorian Yates, and I think that's because of the fact that the original, I guess you could say, grandfather of HIT, HDT, heavy duty training, high intensity training, Arthur Jones, didn't specifically have, I think, the understanding that Mike had, specifically experiential understanding. And therefore, I think there would have been too much of a gap. And I don't think that Dorian would have been able to fine tune his methods as well as he would have had Mike Mensa not been present. And I mean, beyond just the physical, Mike Mensa was incredible with his philosophical thinking. Obviously, we'll go much further into that in the future. I mean, then we have Reg Park, who was basically one of the first institutors, if that's even a word. I'm just making all the words up to there. But he was one of the founding fathers, you could say, of the 5x5 heavy training, specifically for size and strength. Then there's obviously Dan Millman, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, one of the greatest books I've ever read. I've read that book more than 30 times. There's actually a great movie adaptation of his life done with Nick Nolte, who's got that really gruff voice. I forget who the young man was who played Dan Millman, but he was excellent. He really did a fantastic job. So I'd recommend that, by the way, if you're looking for some type of life-changing book or life-changing movie. Way of the Peaceful Warrior is where you should be, where you should be headed. You should really look to pick up one of those copies. Then we have Tom Platz. I mean, who hasn't seen a short of Tom Platz? If you're into training, you've seen a short of Tom Platz saying, "You must achieve failure," and then all the subsequent memes that came about as a result of Tom Platz talking about achieving failure. The memes stating that if you fail at school, Tom Platz would be proud of you because you've achieved failure. Highly ironic and cheeky. And then obviously Frank Zane, who I think was one of the first modern bodybuilders to, take things almost towards the east. He was almost like a Zen practitioner of bodybuilding and utilized bodybuilding to find himself. He was a chemical engineer by trade. It was his day job, and as such, he was like kind of a thinking man's bodybuilder before, Mike Mensa came around. So he completely was the polar opposite of what you could consider Arnold Schwarzenegger, who specifically was charismatic and kind of out there and very boisterous and bold. You had Frank Zane, who was a lot more withdrawn, and just a thinking man. He really was a man of few words, and when he did speak, I think everybody listened. Just because he was the kind of guy who wouldn't say something unless he really knew what it is that he was saying. Um, so that gives you a nice little background, to what has built many of my thoughts on strength training. Now you might ask, why boxing? Why be a professional boxer? Obviously, I'll get much more into that in the future, but just to give you a overall idea, because I think that professional boxing is one of the pinnacle sports of human experience. I think that becoming a professional athlete of any kind is extremely difficult. However, there's a perfect storm that one has when you have boxing, which is that you have to be incredibly fit, you have to be incredibly strong, and your mind and your psyche have to kind of blend to make you this incredible warrior that has to overcome these odds, and the nerves and the nervousness the anxiety that you feel before you have to get into the ring that's a fight in of itself. So you have to become a warrior in order to be a boxer. And ever since I was young, I mean, every little boy who loves physical exercise and kind of has this aspiration for what the physical ideal is and masculine ideal is, wants to be a strong man, wants to be someone that society can depend on, and specifically wants to be someone that society sees as being courageous. And I think ever since I was young, there was a boyhood dream to be beyond just the feat of boxing itself, what boxing represents, which is the warrior's journey. You have the fight camp, you have the training, you have all the different parts, the moving parts of the main engine, and that all culminates in the fight itself. And the overcoming of all those obstacles, I think, is a beautiful thing. And then one might ask, well, yeah, what does that have to do with Vikings? Why VikingLionTraining.com? Very simple. I basically touched on most of those points within the professional boxing aspect of things, which is that if you think about what one generally thinks of as a Viking, whether it's true or not, it's something that is just felt, I think, by most people. When you say the word Viking, they think of a raider, they think of someone who is really taking charge, who's exploring. Well, at least that's what I think. And that was one of the main drivers behind the naming of the website, was that I wanted to specifically encompass an approach to training that has to do with reaching new frontiers, discovering new lands, sailing through this sea of life, so to speak, and having the courage to carry on, even though the waves are 20-foot high waves, or if you're using the SI system, the metric unit, 3.5 meter tall waves, battering the boat, carrying on, and trying to find a way to make things work. Because at the end of the day, sustainability and consistency is the name of the game. And kind of having to weather the storm is where it's at. So that was one of the main reasons why I named the website what I did. And obviously Lion, because my name's Leo. So not short for Leonardo or Leonard, as my friends would love to tease me and say that because they know it grinds my gears. But yes, I take great pride in my name being Leo. It's literally Latin for lion, so why not? I look at my whole training journey as not just being something that I can use to coach other people, but also in a way coach myself, lead myself through this sea of life, and find my way to different places, and discover who I am through the difficulty. Like they often say, embrace the suck, which means embrace how difficult life can be, and you will be surprised at where that takes you. And that's basically the first. That concludes the first introductory video just to let you guys know what kind of is behind all of this, and in the subsequent videos that follow, things will start to make a little bit more sense. But keep tuning in, and I greatly appreciate your support. So see you soon.